when you get to that door and not knowing what's on the other side. You can treat it like there's the boogeyman on the other side. You can check under the bed, you can look through people or pull back the curtain just a little bit and approach it as though the boogeyman's on the other side. Or you can approach it with wonder and see if the fireflies and the fairies and the unicorns are on the other side. What do you want to have on the other side? You could just open it slowly if it feels better, really fast if that feels good to you. We're all different. And just allow surprise and delight to be there for you. It's really hard when you don't know what to expect. Hi there. Welcome to the Empowered and Embodied Show. I'm Kim Romaine.
And I'm Louise Neal. We're two transformational coaches who are also fellow travelers on the path of growth and self-discovery. And we're inviting you along for the ride.
That's right. We're right here in the trenches with you, navigating the ups and downs of life. And each week we'll be sharing our own experiences, bringing you conversations with amazing guests, and exploring insights and strategies that have helped us find more clarity, confidence, and ease in our lives.
And trust us, we do not have it all figured out. We're learning and growing right alongside you.
So if you're ready to rise above the chaos, doubt, and confusion that sometimes life throws our way
and step into a more empowered and embodied version of yourself,
then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Empowered and Embodied Show. I am one of your co-hosts, as always, Kim Romaine, joined by the incomparable, the wonderful, the lovely, the amazing.
Thank you. Louise, that's me. I am the other part of this pair.
Yeah. Louise, do you know what today is?
I do. I was getting a little tear here. Well, you were saying that.
I went a little over the top because it's our 200th episode. 4 years.
Right?
Yeah. Our very first episode dropped on April 29th, 2022. And we were talking about reflection. We were known by a different name back then. We've had a couple different iterations of names for the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, almost exactly 4 years to the date, we launched our first episode of our show.
Do you remember anything about that show?
Oh my gosh, we were so clumsy. That's one thing I remember. It took us a minute to find our voices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I remember how excited we were.
Yeah.
We were so excited.
Yeah, because we used to have these like fantastic conversations without any recording. We would get together and we would be deep diving and talking about like these things that we didn't talk about anywhere else. And the whole idea was like, hey, like, what if we hit record and we actually got to have these conversations that felt really aligned and could really bring out some of those things that we were struggling with or that we were excited about or that we were unsure about too. And it was so interesting because it was funny. My memory is that we would have these great conversations about like, what are we going to talk about? We would plan out the show a little bit and then we would hit record and we get like all tongue tied and it would feel so clunky just because we had that little red dot on for a little while. But we worked through it. We kept learning and growing and we put those episodes out anyways because it wasn't about perfectionism. It was about creating a space for listeners to be able to feel some of the things we were feeling.
Yeah. And even though it was many times just the two of us, and then eventually there were 3 and sometimes even 4 or 5 of us, something like that on the screen. There were just bunches of people. It was always about community. And again, even though it's the two of us here talking together today, it definitely feels like community beyond this. Because we know that we're talking to some very loyal, wonderful listeners and those that keep finding us new every day. And there's a connectivity in there that I don't know that we expected to. I know I didn't expect to happen, where like there is so much more connection that can be felt from our little podcast. It's a little podcast that could Like we never, well, okay, no, no, I take that back. The number of times that we asked Ryan Reynolds to be on the show, maybe we did hope that it would get a little bigger, but I mean, we have enjoyed showing up for ourselves, for our guests, for our listeners this whole time. There's never been a time where we've been like, if we don't get, top 10 ratings or whatever, like that was never a thing for us. It was always just show up with a quality show that invited people into the conversation.
Yeah. And, one of our guiding principles when we kind of sat down to do this was that it had to be fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, life is too short not to do fun things. And
No.
so that helped us. That helped us, I think, through some of the pivots that we did throughout our show. It allowed us to still stay connected to what we were doing. But we recognized that we needed a little more energy or fun in our lives. And so we were able to just amplify a few things in what we were putting out into the world. And then it started to, right, just fall into place and things went along really, really well.
I know we were talking a little bit before about kind of some of the stories of our own growth, our own journey over the last 4 years, and then really extrapolated out beyond that is like, how have I grown as a person? How have I grown as a business owner? How have I grown
Mm.
as a human? And I'm curious upon reflection, because again, that was our very first episode, was this concept of reflection. Upon reflection, what are some of the ways producing and working on this podcast has helped you grow as a person, as a business owner, in finding your voice in whatever way?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but listening to yourself over and over and over again when you're in the editing room, that's a real thing that could provide some discomfort at first, right? "Oh, I sound like that. What am I saying? Like, what's going on?" Our tone, our voice is different out in the world than what we hear in our heads, but also the things that I was saying, the things that we were saying, and how we were showing up. Yeah, those crutch words, the likes, the ums, all of those things, the uncompleted sentences, the emotion that gets chopped, all of those things. I think like for me, that was really hard at first to actually listen to myself. And yet it had to be done to be able to do that and to know, what we are putting out into the world. Some episodes for me was, oh, that was a great episode. What did we say? And so going over it and spending time, even reflecting on those moments during the week as we were trying to edit get our content out so that we could record and edit again, right? Like this was a weekly podcast. There was a lot of stuff that we were doing that had very tight turnarounds throughout the years. But for me, I know that was a really big thing. I still sometimes dread listening to myself in different places and spaces, but I've gotten so much more used to it. I feel like I've embodied some of that, like outside person inside. Like I'm more self-aware because I took the time to really watch and understand what I was doing and incorporate that. So for me, that's the first thing when you said that, that was the first thing that stood out was the good old editing.
It's so interesting because, I think of the things that have come out of that in terms of hearing your own voice, right? How much speaking you're doing, public speaking you're doing. You took us on this improv journey with you, right? All of this finding your voice out into the world, and how much of a part of that this podcast has been a part of that as well, just in terms of quote unquote getting used to hearing my voice, or getting
Mhm.
used to sharing my voice into the world. And for you, and the way that you have been showing up and been invited into spaces to use your voice is really exciting as your partner in crime over here to watch and cheer you on through all of that. It's been really cool to watch that arc that you maybe don't even see.
But the podcast becomes a big part of that,
Mhm.
right? I don't know if that evolution of myself would have been the same had we not done this. Because every little thing in this space, it just kept building on each other. And that's kind of the cool thing too. When we start something new or we venture into a place that's a little crunchy or, we're not quite sure. It's so interesting to see how that can be a door to so much more. And all we see is the door at the time, right? It's like, ooh, what's that door? Let's touch that door. Let's open that door. And it can open into a room, a new world that we never would have expected.
Yeah. I was on with one of my groups earlier today, and we were talking about growth edges. And what you're talking about reminds me of growth edges, right? That when you get to that door, not knowing what's on the other side. And one of the things that I shared with them is you can approach the door and you can treat it like there's the boogeyman on the other side, right? You can check under the bed, you can peek through the door, you can look through people, like, right? Or pull back the curtain just a little bit and approach it as though the boogeyman's on the other side. Or you can approach it with wonder and see if the fireflies and the fairies and the unicorns are on the other side. Like, what do you want to have on the other side? Or you could just open it slowly if it feels better, really fast if that feels good to you, right? We're all different. And just allow surprise and delight to be there for you. It's hard. It's really hard when you don't know what to expect. And one of the greatest, I don't remember where I heard it or read it this week, but it has landed so deeply for me, is you are the leap. You don't take a leap, you are the leap. And so if we're already the leap, right? If we get up to that growth edge and we're peeking through the curtains and thinking what's on the other side, that's us. We're on the other side. It's not a boogeyman. It's not even fireflies. It's us.
Yeah, I love that. How about you, Kim? It's these last 4 years kind of brought up for you or I don't know, realized growth in you.
There's been a lot of fertilizer over the last 4 years. I mean, in many ways, it's allowed me to find my voice as well. And I'm continuing to explore that. It definitely, you go back and watch the earlier ones. I was not as open about my woo, my spiritualness, the way that I operate, and really glad that I own that unapologetically in a way that also honors that not everybody is the same as me, and nor do I want everybody the same as me. Beyond finding my voice and kind of leaning further into who I am as a person, who I am as a leader, both on the material and the cosmic plane, how much I love the tech behind it. I have bitched about it. I admit I have complained that it's been too much at times. And I really love it. There's something that I do get joy from. And so to honor that there is a part of me that wants to be doing that just creatively and not in a production fashion, it has been really fun to think about how can I be creating in that way? Because those moments, I get so happy and excited. And it that has been interesting as well to understand about myself that, right, I have a diverse pool of creative outlets for myself. And how do I want to explore them and learn how to do them even better, right? How can I lean into them and really allow myself to expand on them instead of just utilize them? For anybody who has ever produced their own podcast, which Louise and I have done, we have bootstrapped and produced this absolutely independently from the start. We have not monetized it. It's a lot of work. There has to be a lot of passion and desire to do the thing while you're in it. And for me, knowing that it's also very much me taking something where I'm creative and making it utilitarian, I'm really good at that. Like I used to paint and I used to collage and I used to make jewelry and all those things. And then I was like, well, I love this. I can put it out in the world. I can do something like I can monetize it or make it utilitarian in some way. And then I lose my joy from it.
Mm.
And so, yeah, finding ways where I want to continue and open up, not even continue, but to open up how I'm using sound and video editing as a way to producing and editing as a way as to create, feels really, yeah.
Yeah. We've done such a good job. And through the 4 years, you have really grown in that. And I love when I listen to an episode of our podcast, I was like, man, I love that intro. Man, like it's like, are you sure you're not professional? Because it certainly sounds like you are. We sound pretty put together, when oftentimes we're not. But we also don't do a lot of editing of our content, right? We started off as a live. We've always wanted to keep the really open and genuine interaction with each other because this is who we are, right?
Mhm.
That very authentic, like this is the raw, real deal that you get. There's very little editing, just a few odd pets get edited out here and there. But the seamlessness of the intro and the outro and the finding the clips and like putting all of that together has been really, I think it looks pretty spiffy on this end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
again, there's been a part of it has been really fun, right?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
I wouldn't have remained in the relationship with us, let alone the podcast, because those are two separate relationships. Just to be really clear, Louise and I have a friendship outside of this podcast. This like staying in a relationship when it isn't good, I learned that lesson a long time ago. You don't stick around. You figure out, is this workable? Is this not workable? And what I've loved about our relationship that's grown, both on the friendship side and on the like, how do we collaborate together? How do we build something together side, which not all friends do. It's been what an amazing lesson in like, how do I want to show up in partnership? How do I want to not cut and run when things get hard? I want to actually have a conversation, or I don't, right? I don't want to let old habits be how I show up here. I want to use this as a growth opportunity. And we've had some tough conversations
We
over the
have.
years.
Yeah. 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 And you and I have been able to create kind of this safe space because we've had those tough conversations in the past. And it has been really interesting because I did approach like this. There's some tricky bits to it when friends are partners and partners are friends. Spouses find it hard all the time, right? And it's no different for us. And to be able to know that about myself, that I can lean into a tough conversation, being a harmonizer, I didn't always know that about myself. And I can be a harmonizer and want to keep the peace and have a tough conversation all at the same time. And I think it's really taught me that, right? Real harmony, real solid relationship has those kind of tough moments. And I've never looked at it like conflict. I've never said, oh, Kim and I are going to have this conflict. We're going to have this blowout over this thing. And it's like, no, it's like, I have something important to say, or Kim has something important to say. And we bring it to the table and we let it land and then we listen, right? And then we are able to together pick that up and examine it and say, okay, so then what does it mean to move forward in partnership? And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about who I am in those moments because there were times when we first started, it was like, but I gotta say it and let's just give it a try.
Yeah.
And it worked out like so well. Lots of those moments at first was like, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna get past episode 7.
I know. Well, and that, right. And for me, it was the fear of not that this would break, but that we would break. Because
Yeah.
that, right? Like, oh, she's going to abandon me, because that's my narrative and my story is she's going to give up on me. I'm too much, right? And so allowing myself to receive the love and the friendship and the partnership and the honesty, even when I wasn't sure I deserved it, right? Even when I was frustrated, that's immense growth. That's something that we rarely get an opportunity to be in relationship with another person where we get to very openly say, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'd like to work through. Can we work through this together? Sure, we can work on communication styles and all the things that, we actually coach other people to do. To be so intentional and aware of our own growth as we're in the middle of it. Yeah, that's been pretty amazing. And we were aware of it. I think we didn't really see it until we got to the other side of it each time.
Sure, right? And that's growth, right?
Yeah,
That's how you deepen relationships. You don't know that you're going into the deep end until you turn around and look how far from shore you are. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
so interesting that we're using the podcast, right? Our 200th episode, doing a little reflecting here to bring back that first episode celebration. And we're using this as a tool to really talk about ourselves because it is just a tool, right? It's giving us a timeline to look at. We would have still grown over these last 4 years had we not done the podcast. We would have grown differently. So this is a tool to look at it. And I think that has been it's a reminder that we can stop and we can look at anything in our lives, right? It's why why do you celebrate? So we have our wedding anniversary, but we get more excited over our date anniversary, the date of our first date. And we think about, when I say we, my husband
Yeah, not
and
not me, not me
I,
too. But
although we did try and continue to get together close to the same time every year, and then that fell apart. But our date anniversary, we love doing that because it is a reminder of, oh yeah, not just this past year, but 19 years, right? Wow. Who was I 19 years ago? Who am I now? Who are we now? And then having that opportunity to maybe dream a little bit forward or maybe just really honor who we are here. And I love that we're using the podcast and this 200th episode as a way for us to do that and model that for others as well.
yeah, it was so interesting that this reflection topic was our very first topic for a reason, because it lays the foundation for that, right? It lays the foundation for growth. We can't move forward in a way that's aligned if we're not figuring out what's worked before or what do we leave behind. If we're not taking that time to look back, then we actually aren't able to move forward as quickly or as aligned as what we would really like to be doing. It's really life-changing. Yeah. So,
Well, and behind the scenes, we've been talking for the better part of 4 or 5 months about where we're going with the podcast,
mhm.
right? I think
Yep.
6 months ago, we first started talking about we're going to be approaching our 200th. What do we want to do for it? And we came up with some pretty spectacular ideas.
We did. We did. And we're not saying that we're going to do all those ideas.
Right. We're not saying that those won't happen either, but just not right now.
Yeah, it was really interesting because for me on this side, those ideas were exciting. The very unique ways to continue to bring these conversations to the forefront and to also bring the people and the guests in our lives. How do we continue to highlight and amplify those voices as well? Because that's been a big part of what we've been doing here on the podcast. And some of it was, I think, pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, right?
Well,
And,
and we also realized that the conversations that we were having, while they've been wonderful and while we have found our voices in many ways, there was also, how did you say it earlier, Louise? You were talking about you weren't able to feel or recognize a growth edge because we've been inside this beautiful bubble.
yeah.
And we really have been inside this beautiful bubble for the last 4 years where we've both individually grown, our businesses have grown, they've changed directions sometimes more than once, much as the podcast has. And yet we remain inside this beautiful bubble. And I think in those conversations, and I know there were some definitive conversations, but in those conversations, I think what we came up with was a gift for each other and for this podcast moving forward.
Yeah. And that I love that bubble analogy because it really does feel like it is, right? Like over the last 4 years, we have expanded and grown, like you said. And we have created this pretty cool and wonderful thing. And we don't want it to pop or we don't want it to contract. And I think some of the things that you and I were talking about didn't necessarily feel expansive in the space at this time. Right. And so that becomes a I don't want to say a fear, but there's a recognition in that, right? You blow the balloon up too far, becomes fragile and a lot easier to pop. And so here we are, I think with this really interesting size of bubble, of balloon that feels really good. And I feel like it's time to just hold it for a little while, and let it be what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we're saying without without being indirect
Let's
is
just beat around
that
the bush a little bit more.
exactly no, we're not going to do that. It is complete for now. We wanted 200 to be to signify something amazing and wonderful, and it does, and it has. And for us, what that also signifies is a holding place. It is a place where we and you listeners can continue to visit and revisit all of the episodes, all of the amazing, wonderful guests that we've had over the years, the conversations that Louise and I have had. It can be held in this space in perpetuity. It's not going anywhere. It also isn't going to continue to grow at this point. We don't know what the future holds. We're not saying we are taking a break and coming back because we don't know if that's true. What we need is to get on the other side of the bubble so that we can see the bubble from the outside and understand what the bubble is. I think that's
Yeah. Yeah, I think you said that very nicely because it is about understanding what that is before we push it somewhere that it wasn't meant to go, or we push ourselves somewhere that we're not meant to be. And so in this whole reflection time, there's a lot of like coming back to ourselves. And we named this podcast the Empowered and Embodied Show. And this is exactly what we are doing. We have this gift, I think, that's empowered us and we've empowered ourselves through the last 4 years. And now it's time to sit with it. Now it's time to embody what we've created so that we move forward aligned, just like we planned.
yeah. And hence the little bit of a tear that came up at the
Yeah.
beginning. It's a very strange feeling to think we won't be back here next week recording this. And we are going to let the space hold its own for a while. We're going to allow the breath to exhale a bit more and allow the bubble to just exist in its beauty and its wholeness because it does feel whole and complete, and explore what's next for both of us. I know, Louise, you're doing some amazing work in the world, particularly bringing your voice to the table around menopause and the awareness, but particularly around I almost want to say no woman left behind. But making sure, right? Yeah, advocacy and using our workspaces as an amazing place to have the dialogue so that it's not hidden behind, you know, doors that most people won't even look behind, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kim, for yourself, like really, over these last 4 years, the clarity that has come of what light you're shining on the world, what light you're putting into the world, and how to help others brighten their light. It's been absolutely amazing to see, and yeah, I just see so much more like battery power going into, right? Going into the flashlight and shining even more in what you have to offer the world. It's been really cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a very special place, and we hope that you've enjoyed whatever part of the journey. Even if you just found us today, go back and be part of the journey. Because the every step along the way, our kind of clumsiness at the beginning, it kind of endearing. And also what we had to say was equally as important and relevant as it is today. So please continue to enjoy our episodes. We are honored to have brought them to you. And I feel really proud of the work that we've done over the last 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Thanks. Thanks, Kim. And thanks, dear listener. It's been quite a ride. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Oh, take care, everyone. Goodbye for now.
Bye for now. And that's all for this week's episode of the Empowered and Embodied Show. We hope today's episode has sparked something within you. Remember, we're all on this journey together. If something did resonate with you today, why not share it with a friend who might need to hear it too? You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review. Your feedback not only helps others find the show, but also helps us understand what's most valuable to you. Until next time, be kind to yourself, stay curious, and remember, we're walking right alongside you. Thanks for being part of our community.